Every day we touch quiet miracles of design, a spoon, a chair, a pen, each shaped by centuries of thought, refined by mistakes, perfected by hands that came before us. We rarely notice them, but in every curve, every click, and every texture, there lives a small, invisible genius, a conversation between human need and human invention. Our world isn't made from grand discoveries alone. It's built from simple things done perfectly, objects that fit our hands, our habits, and our hidden sense of beauty. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Share your city or country in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories like these, give this video a like and subscribe. It helps me know where all the quiet minds of our night library are listening from. Now, let's begin. Hold a spoon to your lips and it feels inevitable. The curve seems so natural, it's easy to forget that it was designed, refined over thousands of years of trial and instinct. That shape, neither circle nor oval, but a perfect compound curve, fits the average human mouth almost exactly. Mathematically, it mirrors the radius of the tongue and the angle of the lips. Too shallow and liquid spills. Too deep and it feels wrong, foreign. The spoon's edge thickness, even its subtle taper, guides heat and texture in ways your nerves can feel but can't explain. Ancient metalworkers didn't have CAD software or ergonomics labs. They had touch. Bronze, wood, silver, each passed through generations of hands until perfection emerged by feel, not formula. A spoon is more than a vessel. It's a map of the human mouth, drawn by centuries of quiet genius. Sit down. It feels simple, like gravity itself designed the chair. But behind that simplicity lies one of the most complex objects in human history. The average chair balances 4 forces: the weight of the sitter, the tension of the spine, the angle of the pelvis, and the physics of stability. Its comfort is measured in millimeters. If the seat tilts forward by more than 3 degrees, your muscles never rest. If the back leans too far, your spine collapses inward. Early Egyptian and Greek chairs were rigid symbols of power. Centuries later, artisans of the Renaissance began sculpting them for bodies, not thrones. Today, industrial designers use pressure mapping and motion sensors to model how every curve distributes weight. A chair is not static. It's a living negotiation between you and gravity, a momentary truce that lets the body forget the effort of standing. Fact 3. Paperclips are springs in disguise. A paperclip looks like nothing, a bent piece of wire, but it's a masterpiece of metallurgy and geometry. Each bend stores potential energy. When you clip papers together, the steel flexes, spreading and gripping at once. That's spring physics, Hooke's law in miniature. The secret lies in its material. Cold-drawn steel wire, hardened until it can bend without breaking. Every curve and coil is calculated so that when it's stretched, it wants to return home, exactly to its original shape. The gem paperclip design hasn't changed since the 1890s because it can't be improved. It distributes pressure evenly, doesn't tear paper, and always resets itself. It's the smallest possible expression of control, a perfect union of elasticity and restraint. A reminder that even the simplest objects around us quietly obey the laws of the universe. Fact 4. The door handle's psychology. Before you even enter a room, the handle greets you. It's the first handshake between you and the space beyond. And that handshake was designed to make you feel something: control, comfort, or welcome. Door handles sit precisely where the human hand falls most naturally, around 1 meter from the floor. Their shape, the curve, the coolness, the resistance, is engineered to fit the palm's anatomy and the mind's expectations. A round knob makes you pause. It demands intention, twist, grip, effort. A lever, by contrast, invites motion. It gives a sense of permission. Push, open, step forward. Architects know that what you touch shapes what you think. That's why hospitals use broad, easy handles. They promise safety. Luxury hotels polish theirs to a glow. They whisper importance. In the end, a door handle is more than a mechanism. It's a psychological threshold, a small piece of empathy cast in metal, teaching your hand that it's safe to move forward. Fact 5. Why keys feel right in the hand. A key is a paradox, cold metal that feels intimate. When you pick one up, it seems to fit naturally in your fingers, its weight balanced between precision and memory. That's no accident. Keys evolved alongside the human hand. Early locks from ancient Egypt used large wooden teeth. But as metallurgy advanced, the size of the key shrank until it matched the dexterity of our grip. Every notch and groove carries logic. The rhythm of the teeth matches the turning motion of the wrist. That slight resistance before the final click triggers the brain's pleasure centers, the sound of security achieved. Keys are symmetrical, not just for beauty, but for orientation, so your hand knows instinctively which side faces the lock. Even in a world of touch screens and biometrics, a key remains deeply human. It turns with the same confidence as it did centuries ago. A simple promise: this space is yours. Fact 6. The secret geometry of mugs. Your favorite mug has a geometry older than memory. Its shape isn't random. It's a symphony of physics, comfort, and taste. The curve of the lip controls the flow of liquid. Too thick, and it dulls the flavor. Too thin, and it feels fragile. Ceramic engineers call it tactile ergonomics. The way weight, thickness, and temperature speak to the senses. The handle's position is not decorative either. It aligns with the balance point of a full cup, keeping the wrist neutral and the fingers relaxed. That's why a well-designed mug never twists as you lift it. It behaves like an extension of your hand. Even the inner walls matter. Their slope directs aroma toward your nose, enhancing flavor before you sip. So when you reach for your favorite mug in the morning, you're not choosing nostalgia. You're responding to geometry, perfected by centuries of trial and comfort. Fact 7. The click of a pen. That tiny click, crisp, precise, satisfying, was engineered to feel like control. The modern retractable pen, born in Japan in the 1960s, hides one of the smallest mechanical symphonies ever made. Inside, a metal spring compresses against a tiny cam and follower system. Each press moves the tip just enough to lock in place. A two-stage sound that tells your brain something worked. Engineers tested hundreds of materials and tensions to create the perfect resistance. Firm but never stiff. They discovered that the frequency of the click, around 1000 hertz, triggers the auditory pleasure centers of the brain. It's why you click absent-mindedly. Your nervous system enjoys the rhythm. A pen's click is not noise. It's reassurance, a promise that thoughts can begin. With every press, you reset the world for another line, another idea, another spark of motion. Fact 8. The eraser's dual color code. Everyone remembers the eraser with two halves, one pink, one blue. Teachers said the blue side was for ink, but anyone who tried it knows it mostly tore the paper. The truth is stranger and more human. The two-color eraser began as a marketing accident. Early erasers used pumice to increase friction. Manufacturers added a coarse blue layer, not for ink, but for heavier paper. Drafting sheets used by architects. Over time, myths filled the gap in understanding. The blue side, for ink, became a story passed from classroom to classroom. Yet the design stayed because it worked, not functionally, but emotionally. That second color gave the eraser identity. It looked clever, purposeful, almost magical. In a way, it erased more than mistakes. It erased doubt, the feeling that even small tools could be ordinary. Fact 9. How scissors become extensions of the body. When you hold a good pair of scissors, they stop feeling like a tool and start feeling like an instinct. That illusion is the product of centuries of refinement. The pivot point sits exactly where the human hand's fulcrum lies, between the thumb and the first finger. This alignment turns muscle force into maximum torque with minimal effort. The loops for your fingers aren't symmetrical either. The larger one accommodates the dynamic grip of 3 fingers, while the smaller stabilizes precision with the thumb. Steel, honed to molecular thinness, slides past itself at just the right angle, about 30 degrees, to shear rather than crush. That sound, the clean shh, is friction reduced to elegance. Scissors are proof that the body teaches design. They don't just cut material, they translate motion into intention and turn human anatomy into engineering. Fact 10. The invisible story of glass. Glass is a paradox, a solid that moves like time. To the naked eye, it's still, yet at the molecular level, it behaves like a frozen liquid, its atoms locked in eternal drift. Every window, every bottle is the same ancient recipe: sand, soda, and lime melted at over 1,400 degrees Celsius. When the liquid cools too quickly to form crystals, it becomes something else. Neither liquid nor solid, but an amorphous solid, a state that blurs the line between motion and rest. That's why glass from old cathedrals sometimes appears thicker at the bottom. It didn't flow. It was poured unevenly by hand, each pane a slow fossil of heat and breath. For centuries, glassmakers guarded their formulas like sacred codes. Venetian artisans would live and die on the island of Murano to keep the secret of clarity. Today, we hold that invisible magic in our pockets. Screens that bend light and color through melted sand, quietly proving that transparency is one of humanity's oldest illusions. Fact 11. Why book pages smell comforting. Open an old book and a scent rises. Warm, woody, familiar. It's nostalgia made chemical. That smell comes from the slow decay of cellulose and lignin, the building blocks of paper. As these molecules break down, they release aromatic compounds. Vanillin, benzaldehyde, toluene, the same notes found in vanilla, almonds, and flowers. Your brain links that scent to comfort because the act of reading is ritual, a pattern of calm repetition that mirrors memory itself. Libraries smell like safety not by accident, but by chemistry. The same molecular breakdown that ages the pages awakens the same neural pathways as warmth, coffee, or sunlight. Every book carries a quiet perfume of time, a scent that says, someone held this, turned these pages, thought here. It's not just paper aging, it's memory oxidizing into fragrance. Fact 12. The secret language of light switches. That tiny click in the dark. You know it by feel, not by sight. The sound, the resistance, The travel distance of the toggle, every part of it is engineered for certainty. When you press a switch, a small metal dome snaps beneath your finger, completing a circuit in less than 1,000th of a second. That snap creates the tactile feedback your brain craves, confirmation that your will became light. Designers study the force curve of each switch. Too soft feels cheap, too stiff feels wrong. The perfect switch resists slightly, then yields cleanly, like a breath being taken. Even the sound matters. In sound labs, engineers tune the click to frequencies that suggest precision and trust. You think you're turning on a lamp, but really you're triggering a deeply human loop of satisfaction. A light switch is a tiny ceremony of control. Fact 13. Why forks have 4 tines. The fork wasn't always welcome at the table. When it first appeared in Europe around the 11th century, it was considered decadent, an unnecessary barrier between hand and food. But over centuries, form and etiquette refined each other, and the fork became one of humanity's most perfect tools. 2 tines speared too sharply, 3 didn't balance food well, but 4 was harmony. It distributes pressure evenly, holds food securely without tearing, and keeps your wrist in a natural neutral angle. Even the curve between the tines, the root radius, is calculated to slide easily under food, while the slight upward tilt mirrors the average angle of your hand. Industrial designers still use the 4-tine model because it's biomechanically ideal. It's not about culture anymore, it's about physics. The fork's evolution is proof that elegance and utility can meet perfectly at the dinner table. Fact 14. The button that changed the world. Buttons existed long before machines. The first were decorative, carved from bone, wood, and shell. But when the button met the buttonhole, it became one of the most powerful tools in human history. A small disk of control. It made clothing fit closer, protected warmth, and gave people something new, adjustability. That same principle, a secure connection with a single press, was reborn centuries later in machinery. The modern push button traces its lineage from the sewing needle to the telegraph to the keyboard. Every press of a button is a miniature decision, a human command rendered physical. The word button comes from the French button, meaning bud or something that pushes forward. It's a symbol of intention. The moment thought becomes action. From coats to computers, we live in a world built on the quiet revolution of buttons. Fact 15. The mystery of the pencil's bite marks. Many pencils bear the same story. Faint teeth marks at the end, a trail of thought chewed into wood. It's not just a habit, it's physiology. When we concentrate, our nervous system looks for sensory grounding, a rhythmic motion to discharge tension. Biting activates the jaw muscles connected to the vagus nerve, the same one that calms the heartbeat. It's a subconscious act of regulation, the body steadying the mind. Designers once tried to prevent this. They added rubber tips, plastic ends, even chew-resistant coatings. But people still bite, because the pencil isn't only a tool for writing, it's a conductor between thought and touch. Every mark of teeth is a small proof that thinking is physical, that creation begins not just in the brain, but in the hands, the mouth, and the body. Fact 16. The ruler's hidden empires. A ruler seems simple, just lines on wood or metal, but every mark on it carries the weight of history. Measurement once meant power. Ancient civilizations each had their own systems: the Egyptian cubit, the Roman foot, the Chinese chi. Every empire measured the world in its own image. When Britain standardized the inch and later exported it across its colonies, it wasn't just trade that spread. It was authority, disguised as precision. The metric system, born in revolutionary France, was an act of rebellion, an attempt to measure the world by nature, not monarchy. Even today, nations still argue over inches and centimeters, a quiet echo of those old boundaries. A ruler may seem neutral, but it encodes the story of who decided what straight means. Every mark you see was once a political line. Fact 17. Why envelopes are folded. Just so. An envelope is geometry wrapped around emotion. Its folds aren't random. They're the mathematics of privacy and trust. The classic diamond-shaped design with one long flap crossing the others is the most efficient way to create an airtight seal from a single sheet of paper. No glue, no wax, just precise folding angles invented in the 19th century England for mechanical production. But the envelope's purpose was older. In ancient Mesopotamia, letters were sealed inside thin clay shells, the first envelopes of civilization. Every crease since then carries the same message. Something inside is meant for one pair of eyes. To tear an envelope open is to cross a social boundary, one that's been honored for 5,000 years. It's a small geometry of trust, and one of humanity's first designs to protect the invisible weight of words. Fact 18. The paper napkin revolution. A paper napkin is a disposable idea, and that's what made it revolutionary. Before the 20th century, meals were served with cloth, reused and shared. But as urban life accelerated, hygiene became modern virtue. Restaurants needed quick turnover, and paper, cheap, soft, clean, became the new symbol of refinement. The first paper napkins arrived from Japan in the 1880s, adopted in Europe and America by hotels and airlines as proof of modernity. It wasn't just about convenience, it changed how people behaved at the table. Disposable linens meant disposable intimacy. You could leave behind the evidence of a meal, erase traces of touch and time. The paper napkin redefined civility, quietly teaching us that cleanliness could also mean forgetting. Fact 19. The secret of the zipper's teeth. A zipper feels simple. A quick motion, a soft sound, a satisfying close. But it took 40 years of failure to make it work. The first design, patented in 1893, jammed constantly. The metal teeth misaligned, the slider stuck. It wasn't until 1913 that Swedish-American engineer Gideon Sundback found the solution: interlocking teeth shaped like tiny hooks and hollows, cut with surgical precision so they would align perfectly under tension. Each pair of teeth is offset by micrometers. When you pull the slider, it acts like a wedge, forcing them together with just enough pressure to hold, but not enough to tear. The genius is mechanical empathy, motion turned into harmony. Today, billions of zippers open and close every day, on jackets, luggage, tents, and almost no one thinks about them. But every smooth zip is a small miracle of patience and precision, the sound of frustration turned into order. Fact 20. How the ballpoint pen democratized thought. For centuries, writing was slow. Ink and quill, fragile nibs, blotting paper. Then came a man named Laszlo Biro, a Hungarian journalist tired of smudged words. In 1938, he noticed newspaper ink dried instantly. He imagined a pen that could use the same kind, if only it flowed evenly. So he placed a tiny metal ball in the tip, trapping ink inside a pressurized tube. As the ball rolled, It pulled the ink with it, leaving a clean, consistent line. That little sphere, only a millimeter wide, turned writing into motion. It worked anywhere, at any angle, and made writing accessible to everyone. The ballpoint pen wasn't just an invention, it was liberation. It turned thought into action, ideas into ink, and writing into something the world could do instantly. Fact 21. The unseen life of screws. The screw is invisible, yet it holds civilization together. Bridges, planes, phones, furniture, all rely on that perfect spiral of metal. Its strength comes from geometry, a helical ramp that converts rotational force into linear pressure. Each thread angle, usually 60 degrees, translates torque into grip, a simple trick that locks the world in place. Before the screw, carpenters used nails, which relied on friction and hope. The screw brought precision, making things not just fastened, but aligned. In manufacturing, screw threads are now standardized to thousandths of a millimeter, a global language of connection. Every screw you'll never see is a promise. That chaos can be held together by the elegance of a spiral. Fact 22. The broom's hidden physics. A broom is a lever disguised as a household tool. It looks simple, a handle, some bristles, but every sweep follows the same physics as a crane or a catapult. The long handle gives you torque. A small push at one end becomes a wide arc of motion at the other. Your arms and shoulders act as a pivot point, amplifying force while keeping your center of gravity steady. The bristles, too, are engineered, stiff enough to move debris, flexible enough to trap it. When they spread against the floor, they create micro-friction that gathers dust like static. In Japan, broom makers once soaked the fibers in salt water to make them last longer and sweep more evenly. In Europe, the best broom corn was bred for elasticity, not softness. Every culture tuned this simple machine to the rhythm of its hands. The broom doesn't just clean, it translates human motion into order, a gesture as ancient as symmetry itself. Fact 23. Why soap feels like memory. When you wash your hands, you feel a small comfort that's more than cleanliness. That silky resistance, the glide of soap across skin, is a sensory memory rooted in chemistry and care. Soap works by contrast. One end of its molecule loves water, the other clings to oil. When you rub your hands, billions of these molecules form tiny spheres, micelles, that lift dirt and bacteria away. But the pleasure comes from texture. The smoothness you feel is the balance of pH, surface tension, and fat content. Precisely tuned so your skin senses calm, not friction. The scent is memory's accomplice. Smell bypasses logic and goes straight to emotion, triggering recollections of childhood baths, warm light, clean towels. Soap isn't just chemistry. It's reassurance you can hold, proof that touch itself can feel safe again. Fact 24. The symmetry of door hinges. Hinges are invisible by design. They exist to disappear, to let motion happen without being noticed. Each hinge balances weight, friction, and geometry. The pin at its center acts as an axis of rotation, translating a flat door's swing into effortless movement. Even the spacing of screws matters. Too close, and the hinge binds. Too far, and the frame strains under leverage. Brass and steel are chosen for endurance, metals that won't warp under years of opening and closing. A well-made hinge can last centuries. Architects call them silent enablers. Without them, no building could breathe, no rooms could open, no privacy could exist. A hinge is pure humility in metal, a perfect balance that lives and dies unnoticed. It's not there to be seen, only to remind us that motion can be quiet perfection. Fact 25. The story in a single brick. Pick up a brick and you're holding time. The same form, the same logic, has built homes, walls, and cities for nearly 10,000 years. Early bricks were made of river clay mixed with straw dried under the sun in Mesopotamia. Each one carried the fingerprints of its maker. When fire kilns arrived, brick became eternal, weatherproof, identical, stackable. Its dimensions, roughly twice as long as it is wide, are no accident. They let one hand lay a brick while the other spreads mortar, a rhythm tuned to human motion. The pattern of staggered joints, the bond, adds strength by redistributing weight. A wall, in the end, is not a line of blocks. It's a conversation between balance and gravity. Every city on earth is written in this language of clay. Each brick, a syllable of civilization. Quiet, rectangular, and endlessly patient. Fact 26. How paper became the skin of thought. Paper began as fabric. Ancient Chinese artisans shredded rags, soaked them, pressed them, and dried them into thin, fibrous sheets. It was recycling before the word existed. Those fibers, cellulose, bind water and air in just the right ratio to capture ink without bleeding. The result was a miracle. Thoughts that could be touched, stored, and shared. The word paper comes from papyrus, but true paper, soft, pliable, silent, was a revolution of its own. It replaced stone, clay, and silk, democratizing knowledge through texture. Every sheet is a balance of chaos and control, random fibers forming perfect structure. Even digital screens mimic it. Brightness, contrast, the illusion of grain, because our eyes and our minds still trust the feel of paper more than the glow of glass. Paper is not just where thought lives. It is thought, made tangible. Fact 27. The knife's evolution from stone to stainless. The knife is humanity's oldest invention, a fragment of survival turned into art. The first blades were stone flakes, chipped sharp by instinct and necessity. They cut meat, wood, and time. Each one carried the mark of its maker's hand, a rhythm of impact that was both violent and creative. Bronze brought precision, iron brought strength. But it was stainless steel in 1913 that finally solved the knife's paradox: sharpness that could endure without rust. Ergonomics followed metallurgy. Modern knives align the edge with the wrist, so motion flows like a hinge, not a lever. Balance is tuned gram by gram, so that the weight disappears in use. A knife is not just a tool. It's a history of control, how humanity learned to divide the world without destroying it. Fact 28. Why coins have ridges. Run your thumb along the edge of a coin. Those tiny grooves, precise, even mechanical, were invented to fight deceit. In the 17th century, coins were made of real silver and gold. Dishonest hands would shave off their edges, hoarding slivers of precious metal without changing the face. It was a crime almost invisible until the ridges appeared. Isaac Newton, as master of the Royal Mint, ordered that coins be milled, engraved with fine lines that revealed tampering instantly. A coin's edge became its conscience. Today, most coins are no longer precious, yet the ridges remain. They remind your fingertips that value is built on trust, that honesty can be designed into touch. Even now, when you hear the faint ring of metal in your palm, you're touching a centuries-old promise that what feels right should also be real. Fact 29. The chair that taught us posture. We think of chairs as passive, objects waiting to be used, but every chair teaches a philosophy of the body. In medieval times, sitting upright was a mark of discipline. Noble chairs had straight backs and no softness. They kept the body alert, the mind obedient. Then came the industrial age. Work moved indoors, and comfort became efficiency. Designers began shaping seats to the human spine, mapping pressure points and lumbar curves. The modern office chair is a biomechanical sculpture. Its tilt, height, and recline angles are tuned to sustain blood flow, reduce fatigue, and trick the body into stillness. But posture is never neutral. It's a silent reflection of culture. How we sit reveals how we live, and every chair, in its quiet way, decides how long we can dream before we stand again. Fact 30. The design of life. Itself, long before humans learned to measure, nature was already solving problems with grace. Bones became beams. Leaves became solar panels. A seashell curves to resist pressure exactly as an arch does. Every living thing carries its own blueprint of efficiency, a balance between beauty and survival. When people began to shape the world, we didn't invent design, we joined it. The curve of a spoon, the hinge of a door, the structure of a chair, all echo the same geometry found in wings, joints, and roots. Engineers call it biomimicry, but it's older than science. It's instinct. The closer we look at what grows, the more we realize that evolution and design speak the same quiet language. Every object we've made, from a key to a skyscraper, is a reflection of the same principle. Form, following function, life-shaping logic. We didn't teach the world how to work. The world taught us, and everything we've ever built is just a way of remembering that lesson.